If you think government benefit changes are small, routine updates that barely matter, think again, because for thousands of Canadian seniors, the difference between understanding these changes and missing them can mean extra money in the bank, preventable payment delays, missed supplements, tax mistakes, or hours of unnecessary stress trying to fix problems after the fact. And the hardest part is that most of these costly mistakes do not happen because seniors are careless. They happen because nobody explained the changes clearly, simply, and in time. That is exactly why this matters right now. Over the next several days, important updates tied to CPP, OAS, and GIS will begin affecting what many seniors receive, how those amounts are calculated, and what actions they may need to take to protect every dollar they are entitled to. Some of these changes can put more money into your pocket. Some can create confusion if you are expecting one amount and receive another. And some can quietly affect whether you qualify for benefits at all. So instead of leaving anything to guesswork, let us walk through the major changes carefully, practically, and in plain English so you know exactly what to watch for, what to verify, and what to do next. Let us begin with the Canada Pension Plan, because this is the change that many people notice first when a deposit looks slightly different from what they were expecting. Most seniors understand that CPP payments are adjusted from time to time, but far fewer understand that the increase is not identical for everyone. That is where confusion begins. CPP is based on your contribution history, your earnings during your working years, and the age at which you started taking the pension. That means even when the government announces a cost of living adjustment, the actual change visible in your bank account can differ from one person to another. One senior may see a noticeable bump. Another may see only a modest increase. Another may barely notice any change at all. That does not automatically mean there is a problem, but it does mean you should never assume that someone else's payment experience tells you what your own should be. Starting with this upcoming payment period, adjusted CPP amounts will reflect the latest indexing based on inflation, which is tied to the Consumer Price Index. In practical terms, that means the government is trying to ensure CPP keeps some pace with rising costs for necessities like food, housing, utilities, transportation, and everyday living. But because the base pension itself differs by person, the adjustment also differs. This is important because many seniors either expect too much and panic when the increase looks small, or they expect too little and fail to notice when something is actually off. The safest thing you can do is verify your exact expected CPP amount before the payment lands. If you have access to My Service Canada account, log in and check your updated benefit details. If you do not, call Service Canada and ask what your updated CPP amount should be for this payment cycle. Write that figure down, then compare it to the actual deposit. Even a small discrepancy is worth questioning, because small administrative errors can continue longer than they should if nobody flags them. There is another important CPP detail that many seniors overlook entirely. If you are under 75 and still working, even part-time, while collecting CPP, you may still be making CPP contributions through employment income. Those contributions are not pointless. They can generate what is called a post-retirement benefit, which adds more income to your existing CPP pension. A surprising number of older Canadians are working part-time in retail, seasonal work, customer service, family businesses, or flexible support roles without realizing those contributions can still increase their future retirement income. That extra money is often modest on a monthly basis, but over time it matters. So the first major point is simple. CPP amounts are adjusting, but not uniformly, which means you need to verify your own number rather than relying on assumptions or comparisons. The second major change involves old age security, and this one is especially important for seniors who are 75 and older or who have recently reached that age. OAS is one of the most widely received benefits in Canada because it is not based on your employment record. It is based mainly on age and legal residence history. That makes it simpler in some ways than CPP. But there are still important moving parts that can directly affect how much you receive. OAS rates are reviewed every quarter, in January, April, July, and October, to reflect inflation. That means payment levels can rise periodically in response to cost of living changes. On top of that, Seniors aged 75 and older receive a permanently higher OAS amount because of the additional increase introduced for that age group. This means there are effectively two levels many seniors need to pay attention to, one for those aged 65 to 74, and a higher one for those 75 and older. That sounds straightforward, but administrative timing is where problems can occur. If you recently turned 75 and your OAS has not yet reflected the higher age-based amount, do not assume the system will correct itself instantly without review. In many cases, it should update automatically, but delays can happen. And if the higher amount is not applied when it should be, every missed month means money you were entitled to receive but did not. If you had your 75th birthday recently, review your OAS amount closely. If the expected increase is missing, contact Service Canada and ask specifically whether your file has been updated to reflect the higher payment rate. This is not being difficult. It is protecting income that belongs to you. There is another layer to OAS that causes real frustration for some seniors, and that is the recovery tax, often called the clawback. If your income rises above a certain threshold, part of your OAS can be reduced. What many seniors do not realize is that the trigger is not always ongoing high income from a wealthy lifestyle. Sometimes it is caused by a one-time event, such as selling property, taking a large RRSP withdrawal, realizing capital gains, or receiving some other unusual amount in a single year. Then the next year, your OAS looks smaller even though your current income may already be back to normal. That can feel unfair, but there is a process for requesting that deductions be adjusted based on your expected current year income rather than the previous year's spike. If last year was unusual, and this year is not, you may be able to reduce the impact faster by filing the appropriate request rather than waiting for the system to correct itself through the next tax cycle. This matters because many seniors simply absorb the reduced OAS for months, assuming there is nothing they can do. Often, that assumption is wrong. So the second major change is this. OAS is being inflation adjusted again. Seniors 75 and older should receive the higher level, and anyone recently turning 75 or dealing with a one-time income spike should review their payment carefully. The third major change may be the most financially powerful of all for lower-income seniors, and it involves the Guaranteed Income Supplement. GIS remains one of the most important and most underclaimed supports available to Canadian seniors. It is paid on top of OAS and is designed for people with low income. It is not taxable, it is not a loan, and it does not have to be repaid in the ordinary sense. Yet many eligible seniors either never apply, assume they will not qualify, or fail to realize that a change in their income may now make them eligible, even if they were denied before. That is why updated GIS thresholds matter so much. The income limits used to determine GIS entitlement are adjusted, and when those updated thresholds begin applying, some seniors who were just above the line before may now find themselves inside the qualifying range. This can happen for several reasons. A person may fully retire and stop employment income. Investment income may fall. A spouse may pass away, changing household income circumstances. Certain pensions or taxable income streams may shrink. Or the threshold itself may move enough that the person now qualifies. The key point is that past ineligibility does not guarantee current ineligibility. Many seniors hear no once and never check again. That can be a costly mistake. Imagine someone who worked part-time for years and was always just above the GIS cutoff. Then they stop working and their income drops sharply. If they never revisit eligibility, they could miss hundreds of dollars per month simply because nobody told them their changed circumstances now matter. That is not a small oversight. Over a year or two, it can amount to thousands of dollars. The government does not always automatically place people into the right benefit category the moment their circumstances change. In many cases, action is still needed. If your income dropped recently, if your spouse died, if you stopped working, if your withdrawals or investments changed, or if you were previously told you did not qualify, check again now. Also remember that related benefits exist for people between 60 and 64 in specific low-income circumstances, including the allowance and the allowance for the survivor. These programs are rarely discussed clearly, yet they can provide real help before OAS age begins. So the third major change is this. GIS thresholds are updating, and some seniors who did not qualify before may qualify now, or may be entitled to a larger amount than before. The fourth change sounds administrative, but for seniors living on tight monthly budgets, it can be deeply stressful if misunderstood. It involves payment delivery timing and method. Most seniors get used to the routine of when their benefits arrive and how they arrive. Once that rhythm becomes familiar, any disruption feels alarming, even when the explanation is procedural. Payment schedules for CPP and OAS are published in advance, but depending on weekends, holidays, system updates, and delivery method, the actual arrival can vary slightly. For people using direct deposit, the process is generally smoother and faster. For people still receiving paper checks, the risks are greater. Mail can be delayed, delivery can be inconsistent, checks can be lost. In rare cases, they can be stolen. And when that happens, replacing a missing government check is not a same-day fix. It can take weeks. For a senior, depending on that money to pay rent, buy groceries, cover medication, or handle bills, that kind of delay is not a minor inconvenience. It is a serious problem. That is why any ongoing efforts to modernize or streamline payment systems matter. Even if the official payment date does not change dramatically, the experience of receiving the funds can differ depending on whether you rely on paper mail or electronic deposit. If you are still getting checks by mail, moving to direct deposit is one of the simplest ways to improve the security and predictability of your benefits. It also makes it easier to verify what arrived and when. Just as importantly, if you already use direct deposit, make sure your bank account details on file are current. A changed account, closed account, or incorrect number can send your payment into delay and create a chain of stress that is often preventable. So the fourth major change is this. Payment delivery issues remain a real risk, especially for those still relying on mailed checks, and this is the right time to confirm direct deposit details and reduce avoidable disruption. The fifth change connects directly to tax season, and this one catches seniors by surprise because it affects not just paperwork, but future benefit entitlement as well. CPP and OAS are taxable benefits, and the related tax slips are essential when filing your annual return. GIS itself is not taxable, but your total reported income still plays a central role in determining whether you qualify for GIS and how much you receive. That means filing taxes accurately and on time is not just an annual obligation. It is a benefit protection strategy. If your return is late or not filed, your GIS can be reduced, interrupted, or stopped because the system no longer has the information needed to confirm eligibility. This has happened to many seniors who did not realize that a missed tax filing could affect benefits so directly. Another issue is how tax slips are delivered. More seniors are finding that government-issued slips are increasingly accessible through online accounts rather than simply arriving in the mail by default as they once expected. For those comfortable online, that may be convenient. For those who are not, it can create confusion. If someone waits for paper slips that never come, tax filing may be delayed unnecessarily. Then the missed or delayed filing causes benefit problems later. This is why checking your My Service Canada account for tax slips, or explicitly arranging to receive paper copies if you need them, is so important. Do not assume the old process will happen automatically in exactly the same way forever. Confirm it. And if filing taxes feels overwhelming, remember that free help may be available through community volunteer tax programs for eligible seniors with relatively simple tax situations. That support can make the difference between staying current and losing access to income you depend on. There is one more tax-linked issue worth raising because it can meaningfully improve a household situation when handled properly. Pension income splitting. For some couples, splitting eligible pension income between spouses or partners can reduce overall tax, protect credits, and lessen the risk of OAS clawback. Yet many people never raise it with whoever helps prepare their return. If you are married or in a common law relationship, this is a question worth asking directly. So the fifth major change is this. Tax slip access, tax filing habits, and the way your income is reported can all affect future benefit calculations, especially GIS, which means being proactive now can prevent future loss. Bringing all of this together, there is a clear action plan every senior or family member helping a senior should consider right now. First, verify your updated CPP amount instead of guessing. Second, if you are 75 or recently turned 75, confirm your OAS is at the correct level. Third, if your income dropped for any reason, revisit GIS eligibility immediately rather than assuming a past answer still applies. Fourth, if you are still receiving paper checks, move to direct deposit if possible and confirm the banking details on file are accurate. Fifth, review how you will access your tax slips and make sure taxes are filed on time so future GIS and related benefits are not disrupted. Beyond these 5 changes, there are several related benefit issues that many seniors do not think to ask about, even though they can have major financial consequences. If you recently lost a spouse who contributed to CPP, you may be entitled to survivor benefits or the one-time CPP death benefit, but those typically do not arrive automatically without an application. If you live outside Canada for part of the year or are planning an extended stay abroad, your benefits may still be payable, but tax treatment and delivery arrangements can differ depending on where you live and whether a Social Security agreement applies. And if you delayed applying for OAS or GIS after becoming eligible, it may be worth asking whether retroactive payments are available for part of the missed period. These are exactly the kinds of questions that never get answered when people assume the government will tell them everything they need to know at exactly the right time. Often, it will not. That is why vigilance matters. At the heart of all these changes is one simple truth. Your benefits are too important to manage passively. CPP, OAS, and GIS are not charity. They are core pieces of retirement income that can determine whether a senior lives with stability or constant financial anxiety. Every adjustment, threshold update, age-based increase, tax slip change, and delivery issue matters because all of it touches real life. It affects grocery money, prescription money, utility money, rent money, and peace of mind. And while the system can feel complicated, the good news is that a few proactive checks can prevent a surprising number of costly mistakes. So do not wait until a deposit looks wrong, a slip goes missing, a benefit disappears, or a clawback creates panic. Review your information now, confirm your amounts now, ask questions now, and protect what you are entitled to receive before confusion turns into lost money. That is how seniors stay ahead of the system instead of getting trapped by it. And that is exactly how you make sure that none of these changes quietly cost you what should already be yours. There is also a human side to these changes that deserves attention. Many seniors do not ignore benefit updates because they are careless. They ignore them because the process feels exhausting. Government letters are hard to read, websites can be confusing, hold times are long, and many people worry they will ask the wrong question or misunderstand the answer. That is exactly why a simple checklist matters. Keep a notebook with your expected payment dates, expected payment amounts, Service Canada contact information, and the date you last checked your direct deposit details. If something changes, write it down immediately. If you speak to an agent, note the date, the time, and the name of the person you spoke with. If a spouse, adult child, or trusted friend helps you with benefits, make sure that person knows where your paperwork is and understands which programs you receive. Small habits like these make problems much easier to fix. They also make it less likely that stress will cause missed steps. And one more thing matters enormously. Never respond to phone calls, texts, or emails asking you to update banking information for CPP, OAS, or GIS through a link. Scammers target seniors whenever benefit changes are announced. If anyone contacts you unexpectedly and asks for personal or banking information, hang up, ignore the message, and contact Service Canada yourself using an official number you already trust. Protecting your benefits is not only about knowing the rules, it is also about protecting yourself from confusion, delay, and fraud. If you help a parent manage finances, do not assume they will mention a missing increase, a strange deposit, or a vanished slip right away. Many seniors stay quiet because they do not want to be a burden or because they think the issue will correct itself. Build a habit of checking together. Review the deposit, confirm the amount, glance at recent correspondence, and ask whether anything looked different this month. 5 minutes of review can prevent weeks of confusion later, and it can spare a senior from losing money simply because nobody realized a small problem had started. Smart Pension Canada.